And that was one of my favorite things about being involved in the experience is finding people who needed some loving and being able to give that to them in a way that is not always possible in other settings.
Awesome. How did this change you spiritually?
Well, it made me realize that floating along is not really God's plan for my life, and that sometimes diving in deep into really rough waters is part of the adventure that God has in mind, whether I like adventure or not.
How about for you, Dave? Where did it take you, this journey? What did you expect?
Well, before I got involved with the experience, and you in particular, in mentoring me and pushing me out of my comfort zone constantly, unrelentingly pushing me.
That's right, yeah.
With a cattle prod, exactly. Before the experience launched, and it was real small, we had this thing called purpose-driven life. And here we are. I'm not a public speaker. I'm sure all you guys can pick up on that right away. But there was like, what, 40 people or something in the group, and Brian was having me lead out. It's like, wow, this is so far out of my comfort zone. And then I got involved and I did that, and I became more and more comfortable. I decided, well, I guess, God, if this is where you're taking me, then I don't really feel like I have any ability or anything to offer here, but I am willing. I am willing to make myself available. And then I started thinking, wow, you know, there's a real need in the Adventist church and in churches in general for ministers and stuff like that. And Brian says, and I just mentioned it to him. He said, well, why don't you do it? It's like, what? No, you've got to be kidding me. No, I really think maybe you should consider this. I'm like, no. And then I got mixed up with a book called Wild at Heart.
Amen. Yeah.
And I studied it, and not only studied that, but I studied where God was taking me in the Bible and seeing how these concepts emerge all throughout the Scriptures, from Genesis to Revelation, how Jesus is such a wild at heart, 100% man, and learning to figure out what that was, and realizing how much of a need I had for that in my own life, and how broken I was, and broken in my relationship with my father, which was terrible for probably 20-30 years. And God worked through that experience to bring me to a point of confrontation with my own part in all that, and to come to my father and to say, you know, I'm sorry for what I did in this mess. I dishonored you, and I'm taking responsibility for my own actions. And the healing that God brought about in our relationship is just absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And it's been quite a journey with trying to learn how to relate with my not teenage anymore, 20-year-old sons, and some of the things that I learned that I don't think I would have learned at all if I'd have stayed in my comfort zone, if I would have let God stay in his box, or forced him to stay in his box. Because he won't stay there if we want to keep him there. But if we say, God, we want you out of your box, we want you to fill the universe, we want you to fill our vision, we want you to fill everything about us, he'll do that too.
Yeah. Amen.
Now, you guys have, God called you as missionaries to Washington, and well, we miss you a lot, but it hasn't been a really easy journey. Kind of getting involved in the experience, I've heard this before anyway, ruins people.
No going back.
And that's kind of been, it's kind of been a challenging and frustrating time for you guys.
Come home.
We want you to know that we still love you and you're still a part of our family. And even though a lot of what you found at the experience you haven't been able to find, and there have been the days of questioning God, saying, why the insert expletive, 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 are we here? Let's be real, you've had that time with God. You're still a part of our family, and we're still praying for you, and we still consider you our missionaries to that God-forsaken place. And we are, as Kenny said, we're praying against Walla Walla, and that God would send you back. And that's probably, you know, you've talked about God pushing you out of your comfort zone time and time again. It sounds to me like this is the next comfort zone. It's just taken a long time. And it's a Gethsemane experience that's not a lot of fun. And we want you to know that we're still praying for you. And we're still with you. And this next, wasn't even planned this way, but this next song that we're going to sing together, I think is kind of the story of your journey for the last couple of years, and especially since God called you there. So we love you guys. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you. Love you guys.